Update 3. He said he didn't want to marry a feminist, so I told him that's misogyny and he dumped me anyway. So I started explaining how crucial it was to me that my future partner understood my beliefs and could actively support my activism and work towards social justice. I told him I needed someone who could be a real ally in fighting against oppressive systems, not just someone who'd passively tolerate my convictions while remaining uninvolved. I thought I was being really mature and reasonable by having this conversation before we moved in together, but apparently, he took it as some kind of personal attack on his character. He got this look on his face like I was speaking a completely foreign language. And then he said something that honestly shocked me to my core. He said he'd been thinking about our relationship a lot lately and he wasn't sure we were as compatible as he had originally thought when we first started dating. When I asked what he meant by that, he started going on about how he didn't really understand why I was so obsessed with feminism and social justice issues. That's when I knew I had to be completely honest with him about who I am as a person and what I stand for in this world. I explained that feminism isn't some hobby or phase I'm going through, it's a core part of my identity and how I see and interact with the world around me. I told him that if he had a fundamental problem with that, then he had a problem with me as a complete person. I also pointed out that his obvious discomfort with strong, outspoken women was exactly the kind of internalized misogyny that feminism exists to address and challenge. But instead of listening and trying to understand where I was coming from, he just got defensive and started saying all this ignorant nonsense about how modern feminism has gone too far and how it's divisive and unfairly attacks men. He actually said he thought feminism was making relationships unnecessarily difficult because it teaches women to be suspicious and critical of men instead of working together harmoniously. Like, what? The whole point is that we shouldn't have to work around systems that systematically benefit men at women's expense. Then he said the thing that really revealed his true colors and showed me exactly who he was underneath the nice guy facade. He said he didn't think he could marry someone who identified as a feminist because he wanted a partner who could appreciate traditional relationship dynamics and who wouldn't analyze everything through a political lens. When I pointed out that those traditional dynamics were literally designed to oppress and limit women, he said I was proving his point about taking everything too seriously and making everything about gender politics. I tried to explain to him that what he was saying was actually deeply misogynistic, that wanting a woman who won't challenge unfair systems is literally wanting to benefit from and perpetuate sexism. But he completely lost his mind and said I was calling him a sexist just for having different opinions about relationships. Different opinions? We're talking about basic human equality and dignity here, not whether pineapple belongs on pizza or what movie to watch tonight. The worst part was when he said he'd been walking on eggshells around me for months because he was afraid of saying something that would set me off or trigger another lecture about social issues. Set me off? Like holding people accountable for harmful views and educating them about reality as some kind of character flaw or unreasonable behavior. He made it sound like I was this volatile, unreasonable person who couldn't handle normal conversation when really, I was just refusing to let ignorant comments slide without challenge. I told him that if he thought supporting women's rights and basic human equality was too much work or too complicated for him to handle, then he was exactly the kind of man that feminism exists to educate and challenge. That's when he said he was done with the conversation and maybe we should take a break to think about what we both really wanted from this relationship. A break? After 8 months of building what I thought was something meaningful, he wanted a break because I wouldn't pretend to be someone I'm not to make him more comfortable. The next morning, I woke up thinking maybe we'd both just been heated in the moment and could work things out like mature adults who care about each other. I mean, I was still deeply hurt by the things he said and how he'd reacted to my core beliefs, but I figured once he had time to cool down and really think about everything, he'd realize how wrong and hurtful his response had been. So I texted him asking if we could talk and maybe approach the whole situation differently with more patience and understanding. His response was honestly shocking and showed me exactly how little our relationship had meant to him. He said he'd been doing a lot of thinking overnight and he didn't see how we could move forward together given our fundamental differences. When I called him to ask what he meant and try to have an actual conversation, he basically dumped me over the phone like we were teenagers who'd been dating for a few weeks instead of serious adults who'd spent 8 months building something together. He said he realized we had fundamental incompatibilities and he didn't want to keep trying to make something work that was clearly causing both of us stress and conflict. Stress, like fighting for basic equality and human rights, was just some annoying hobby that was inconveniencing his comfortable life. He made it sound like I was the problem for having principles and refusing to compromise on issues that actually matter in the world. The absolute worst part was when he said he thought I'd be happier with someone who shared my passion for activism and that he needed someone more easygoing about social issues and politics. Easygoing? He literally wanted someone who would just ignore injustice and smile pleasantly while the world burned around her. He wanted one of those pick-me girls who thinks feminism is too aggressive and that women should just be grateful for whatever scraps men decide to give them out of the goodness of their hearts. I tried to explain to him one more time that this wasn't about being difficult or creating unnecessary drama. It was about standing up for what's right and refusing to accept systems that harm people. But he just kept saying he respected my views but didn't think we were a good match for long-term compatibility. Respected my views? You can't claim to respect someone's fight for basic human rights while simultaneously saying it's too much work to support them or learn alongside them. What really gets me is how he made the whole breakup sound like it was mutual or some inevitable conclusion we'd both reached when really, he was just too weak and comfortable to handle being with a strong woman who challenges him to grow. He even had the nerve to say he hoped we could stay friends and that he thought I was an amazing person who would find someone perfect for me someday, like throwing away an 8-month relationship was just some casual decision that didn't deserve a real conversation or any effort to work through our differences like adults.